Ain't no party like a Jackbox party, 'cause a Jackbox party don't stop until you run out of time or players' interest.
Or the internet drops out.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. Every time.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem.
G'day and welcome to episode 38 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. G'day, I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. We're the Gaming Lovers. We're here to talk about games that we love and some that we don't. But usually we love them.
It is a new year, and with it comes a fresh perspective of all the games that we've been playing, but also as we look to new games on the horizon, especially with 4 in Feb around the corner.
That's right. Some people say new year, new me, but not us. This is not new year, new us. This is old us, new year.
Yep. Just
same us.
Same old, really. But hopefully better in some respects.
Not to say we're stagnant, but
Yeah.
we have a rhythm that we've fallen into with this podcast, with our gaming schedules, and we're looking to continue that. Like you said, 4 in Feb, not too far away.
Yes, and I'm going to try and challenge myself with some things that are a little outside the box, but we'll get to that, I think, like right before February. I'll explain that.
I can't wait for you to play Alien Isolation. It's so exciting.
Did not mean that at all. Before we jump into our topic today as we look through all the best games in the Jackbox series, in the meantime, we have to do one thing first. Gaming goals! That was so much better than last time.
See what happens when I actually try and sound nice?
When you're not deliberately sabotaging a harmony.
Well, just like a Jackbox party, sometimes the most fun is had by just causing a train wreck.
Yeah,
which
but
is not something I do often because I'm actually a train driver. I try to avoid train wrecks.
I don't mind singing off key as long as I know that like everyone's doing it. Then that's more fun that way. But if I'm trying to like harmonize with you and you're deliberately sabotaging it, then it gets very frustrating.
Fun fact, if we are at any birthday party where people are a bit shy about singing happy birthday, we just go, all right, let's just sing it as badly as possible, and then everyone joins in, and it's great fun, and there's
is so much
laughter
fun.
galore. Happy birthday to anyone who's listening on your special day. Happy birthday to you.
And so you not like have copyright infringement because you're singing it so badly they would never want to associate with that being their song.
It's not the original performance, it's an homage.
Although that does make me go, well, technically that song was written a long time ago. I don't know if they should still be able to claim copyright on that anymore. But anyway,
They do
it
if
should
they
be in the public
continue
sector.
to purchase and keep them maintained.
Well, see, that's where the laws change, and I think that's kind of fishy. Anyway, let's not delve into copyright laws. It seems to be a personal pet peeve of mine.
Well,
but anyway, gaming
you
goals.
pirate you.
It's not that. It's that things are open to the public sector after the creator has passed away. It's been a good 50 years or so. It's supposed to be available to the public to use, and that's why we have things like Jane Austen redone over and over again and Shakespeare over and over again. So now there are things that are hitting that age mark, but now that they've kind of like tweaked the laws, they're trying to get around it, and
It's
it's
actually
annoying.
100 years because I read an article about
there you
it
go.
just this very week.
Apologies. But there you
Anyway,
go.
I was trying to segue, calling you a pirate. Pirates sometimes wear eye patches. You know who else wears an eye patch? Is Goro Majima in Yakuza 0, which I have been playing a excuse my language, a heck of a lot of this week.
Yeah.
I have had so much fun. I mentioned that there is a real estate minigame which sounds about as boring as playing Monopoly by yourself. I have generated, the cash is flowing in 1988 Japan. The cash is flowing. I just unlocked a mini achievement to generate 10 billion yen in revenue through my adventures in Yakuza. That's more than a pretty penny. Even with the horrible exchange rate of the yen at the moment, 10 billion would still be a fair bit.
Are pennies really all that pretty?
Well, they can be. They're that lovely metallic shine.
It's never considered them to be all that aesthetically pleasing, to be honest. But okay, keep going.
Okay, well, I've been taking over the Kamurocho area of Japan. It's not real. I'll just say that. This is all in a video game. Unfortunately, real estate is not actually how you make money in real life at that speed. It's incredibly fast to make money in Yakuza 0 using that. And because I'm a good real estate manager, I have a good staff on hand. I have befriended police officers and sushi chefs and women who work at an arcade place, and they have all assisted in either giving me properties or coming on board as security or a manager or an advisor, including my good friend Nugget. I don't want to spoil how Nugget joined my team, but if you go bowling and you manage to bowl a turkey when there's a challenge involving that, someone joined your team called Nugget, and it's the epitome of the weirdness of Yakuza, the minigames, the side quests. So maybe, just maybe, we'll post something about that on our social media. But if you do not want to know what it is, do not look at it.
I tell you what, Nugget would be a great name if you had a pet chicken. Don't you think it would be really cute and ironic? No? You just... Okay. So my gaming goals... I have a bit of a void because I finished Assassin's Creed Odyssey and I can do some like side stuff if I wanted to. They keep adding things even now. Like almost every week they add a new challenge so that people keep coming back to the already monstrous game. Monstrous. And my goodness, the boss fights that they saved for the very end were not for the faint of heart. But even so, I'm looking for something new, and I don't want to rush into anything. I kind of want to maybe try something outside my wheelhouse, but I'm also too scared to start something really huge right before February when I want to be able to really have my time and attention set aside for Floor and Feb, because if I start something too big and I haven't finished it in time, then it's going to get put down while I'm taking on that challenge.
Well, we'll have a more in-depth discussion about 4 in Feb in a coming episode, but some people modify the rules to fit their lifestyles, and some people just say as long as you beat 4 games, it can be something that you're partway through, something that you are 70% through that you shelved 5 years ago, and you just pick up that save file and just beat the last 3 hours of the game. That's fine. For me personally, I like to do an entire fresh 4 games, which does put the pressure on the timeline. Yeah. Because then you've got 7 days for each game, except for those blessed leap years. What a beauty they are.
Well, we won't have that this year. We have to wait another year to get the 2020 extra day.
All I'm trying to say is if you want to start something that's a bit more longer and epic, you are more than welcome. And you can always put it on pause for that month of February and pick it up later.
But that's the problem. I don't want to start anything new and put it down and then come back to it later. So what I've done is I have restarted the Mass Effect trilogy, because if I put it down, it's okay.
Well, at least you're justifying it with logic this time instead of just me popping my head in going, what are you playing? Mass Effect again? What are you doing?
It's been a while. It has been a while since I've played it. I'm like... It felt very nostalgic, though, picking it up and going back to the very beginning of the trilogy, because sometimes I'll jump in from number 2 or even number 3 just to revisit those. But going back to number 1, you know, and having the layers of graphics slowly load always cracks me up.
Sometimes when you go to talk to a character who hasn't quite finished loading yet, they'll have almost like a Play-Doh face.
Yes.
For the first 3 seconds as the console quickly scrambles to load their textures
properly.
Skins,
yeah. It's a little creepy sometimes with the conversations. Or like when you're exploring planets and you're like mining for minerals, and you'll see what just basically looks like a lump of poo until the it starts getting like the higher quality like graphics over the top.
Well, it is space poo, so maybe it is rare minerals inside the space poo.
Possibly. They do get stuff from excrement that crystallizes. Oh, anyway.
And you never know what sort of valuable things you'll find in a shifty-looking cow's waste.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's been fun to kind of go back and revisit, and I still have surprisingly some like trophies and achievements to hunt down even after playing it so many times. Mass Effect 1 is notoriously hard to get all of the achievements for, because
I can attest
you
to that.
have to play like the entire game pretty much with key members of your party, and if you exclude them even sometimes for like one tiny side quest, then that can like ruin your run. So I've managed to do it with like part of the party. So now I'm trying to challenge it and do it with other members that I don't really like as much. But it might change my gameplay, you know, having people that I maybe haven't heard all the banter because I've never brought them along because they irk me.
Well, that is part of the appeal of those sort of RPGs where you have a party. You do each mission, you think, okay, who's going to come with me on this mission?
Yep.
I need your skills and you're my best bud, so you're coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. But with those achievements, yes, you do have to do a certain amount of side quests with a certain character to unlock their achievement.
Yep.
Which is annoying, particularly for one character who you can get quite late in the game if you do certain key missions in the wrong order, in which case you've blocked yourself before you even get them.
Yep.
But you don't know that until you beat the game and you go, I didn't get the achievement. What happened? What did I go wrong?
Yeah. And like my first playthrough, obviously you're just concentrating on playing the game and you don't really care about that so much. But as you go back and you want to challenge yourself and make it a little bit harder, like using key weapons or one power over and over and over again to pop all those other ones too, like it changes the way you approach it so that way it doesn't feel as stale. But at the same time, like some of them are just so damn hard.
Yeah, well, that's why I do enjoy trophies. I'll try and play my first playthrough through almost any game with just a blind, well, just whatever happens, happens. Whatever trophies I get trophies. What achievements I get achievements. I don't let them affect how I play my first game. But then I do enjoy, if I'm replaying a game, to go, all right, what haven't I got? Okay, I've got to get this amount of kills with this weapon, or I've got to save this person where I let them die in the first run and stuff like that. I like that sort of thing. Gives a little, like, mini challenges.
And you feel less guilty for going and replaying a game that you've already beaten because you've got a new challenge and a goal and, a sort of minor reward for doing it. It doesn't feel like you're just going back and... like it's not like you're wasting time, but you can kind of feel guilty when you've got a lot of other stuff that's sitting there in your backlog and yet you're going back to an old favorite and you're like, well, aside from replaying something that I love, what am I getting out of this? So having those, they're kind of rewards, but they're kind of not. I'm
just mentally picturing you behind the defendant stand in a court saying, this is why I'm playing Mass Effect again, Your Honor. There's reasons behind it.
When really it just boils down to I miss Garrus. I tell you what though, even when I go in to play a completely different style of game with that series, as soon as I bump into Garrus on the Citadel, I'm like, what was I gonna do? I completely forgot. Out the window.
I don't know how to feel about this.
It's just one of those things where you like a story and you want to read that story or you want to watch that movie or series. For me, like with these video games, sometimes I'm like, I crave re-experiencing my canon run, you know?
No, that's fine. I played Knights of the Old Republic the same way about 5 times.
Yeah.
But then there was also the turn where after so many goes of going, no, HK-47... you assassinating robot, you calm down. We're not killing the meat bags. Then you do like the pure dark side playthrough and you're like,
it's so
HK,
fun.
Please go right ahead. Execute this man for me. Wonderful.
He's so good. Acknowledgement.
So are you planning on just playing Mass Effect at the moment, or is that going to be something on the side while you work towards something else, or what is going on?
I'm still wrapping up the Persona dancing games, so I've been popping a lot of trophies with those. Haven't quite got all the social links or engagements or interaction thingies yet. So that's kind of what I'm juggling, and I figure if I just stay the course with those until we get to 4 in Feb, then that should keep me busy enough and stimulated enough and also free enough to then jump into whatever challenges I set my way. So I guess for January this year, I'm going to be keeping it simple until I ramp it up.
Well, the only other thing I've really put a lot of time into recently, I mentioned last episode that I started playing with my good buddy the Falcon online co-op of The Forest, which, again, Doesn't sound like that much of a exciting game title, but when the forest is filled with hungry cannibals that are trying to destroy all of your base that you've just spent the past 14 hours building and you were so proud of it, and now we've had to move house and relocate because we got attacked and the falcon went up into our tree house that we'd built, and then a big man just sort of charged at the tree and the tree fell and then the tree house destroyed and we had to run for our lives and we had to make a new life on a different side of the island.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that we've played, because it is a survival game. You have health meters, hunger, thirst. You got to kill animals for food, pick berries, find fresh water, boil it if needed, all those sort of things. So you're always managing those
all the
gauges.
mundane things you have in life. It's like The Sims with zombies.
But some reason they're more fun to manage. It's not fun to manage your thirst in real life, but it's fun to manage thirst in a game.
It is. It's weirdly satisfying sometimes. Well, it depends on your personality, I guess. But I guess, there's so many people that love playing The Sims, so I guess you can't argue too much against it.
Well, there is a storyline. There is a goal. Your child is missing. You have to find them. We have made bugger all progress towards that. Poor Timmy. It's been like 14 in-game days. He's still out there somewhere, hopefully alive, because we've spent so much time trying to build our base, trying to craft snowshoes and, stealth armor and all these other things. And all the time we've invested in our primary base has now felt like a waste because we had to move our base. We're trying to establish a new base, so it feels like we're starting again in the same save file. It's been tense. There's just never a moment of peace on this
You
island.
should always be on the move in those kind of games, though. It doesn't make sense to get too settled in one spot when you've got any kind of apocalyptic thing. Wouldn't it be safer to, stay in a place for a short amount of time and then move on, just so you can't be traced back?
You don't understand. I build a bird house so birds visit me and leave feathers behind, which I use to craft arrows. And when that gets knocked off the wall, I just think, what happened now? The birds are homeless. I'm homeless because they've just destroyed my tree house, and the birds are homeless.
The birds will rebuild.
Well, when the only other real way to get feathers is to basically bludgeon them with something so they puff into feathers and you can snip them out of the air, I much rather have the birdhouse.
Well, the pacifist way, yep.
And speaking of tricky achievements that will require you to play a certain way, there is actually a very rare trophy in the forest to play vegan style and to not actually kill or eat any animals. So it's berries for you, and that's pretty much it.
Well,
Munch, munch.
are they easy to come by at least?
Some are, and some are poisonous.
Oh.
See, there's no poisonous rabbits, so it's much better. Anyway, that's my experience with the forest. Still enjoying it. I'm surprised at how much I did get to actually play it because myself and the Falcon both work incredibly weird hours with very little heads up on what we're working, so our schedules clash quite often, more so than usual adult friendships. But I am looking forward to playing more of that as the sessions come and go. So there we go. It's been fun and frustrating and fun and terrifying and fun.
But so long as it's fun.
I'm getting good with my bow, though.
All right, Aloy.
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thegaminglovers.
One game series that you might have heard us talk about quite a bit on this podcast is Jackbox, which is a party kind of pack with lots of little mini games all tucked in. Every time they release a pack, there's usually about 4 or 5 different mini games for you to play with your friends on your smartphone.
It's one of our favourite things to bring out in family environments or when there's a large group and not all of them are gamers. Because the benefit of using your smartphone as your input device is that people are familiar with their phones.
Yeah.
You don't have to hand them a controller with 28 buttons on it and saying, okay, this one's to jump, this one's to attack, press this to dodge, this is sprint, this is to inventory, this is that. Sometimes even the simplest party games have too many buttons.
Yep.
And the benefit of Jackbox is that it's all just on a screen. Whether it be your smartphone, a laptop, a tablet, there's many things that you can play Jackbox on, and people are usually familiar with their own device.
That they are. All these arguments that you're making pro Jackbox, some of the reasons why people love mobile games. Just wanted to get that in there. Okay, so Jackbox has been around for a while now, and I think we first discovered it on the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
It originally started on PC and has since made its way to pretty much everything these days. It's very accessible. Usually you can get it pretty cheap as well, depending on what sales. You can scrounge up on the PlayStation Network or on Steam, etc., etc. So for us, we thought we would go through every single, not just pack, but mini game and let you know what are the best of the best and what are like more mediocre and what suits what environment, because certain games are more family friendly, certain games are better when you've only like got a small amount of people, and some have to have a good amount of people for them to really be worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that in mind, we sorted them all out. We even replayed a few recently to refresh our memories. So we are ready to present you with
the definitive Jackbox Party Pack rankings. Sound effects.
Jackbox games. That's how I'm just going to sing things now. Like, I'll sing all like the theme musics badly.
So yeah, there are currently 5 Jackbox Party Packs that you can buy on whatever console you have, and the good thing is they all contain about 4 to 5 games, which is good. Now, I first heard about Jack. I heard about Jack. Well, I did not know Jack, because the game that they made originally was called You Don't Know Jack, and that was even back as far as the 90s. But they tried a few different things here and there before they settled on the Jackbox Party Pack style, which included some of their classic separate standalone games in a bulk pack. But each one having so many means there's a lot to get through. But
yes.
We've settled on separating them by tiers.
Yes.
Not the tiers that come out of your eyeballs, but the tiers of gold, silver, and bronze.
Yes, a lot less salty.
I've found some degree of enjoyment out of all of these games, but some of them that is just a tiny little speck of enjoyment. So, shall we start with the duds?
Yeah, let's go. Well, they're not duds per se. That said, though, let's run through and know that we do love pretty much everything on this list, but just we love stuff more.
Yeah, they're all enjoyable to some degree. But the worst Jackbox game, I will pretty much put my vote on. Even more so than the one we complained about last time we talked about Jackbox. It's even worse than that.
Oh, wow.
Representing Jackbox Party Pack 1 is the game Word Spud. And the name itself sounds fun, but that's about all you'll get. It's a word association game. You will start off with a word, and then you will add another word to it to link it together.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I said head, you might say light. Headlight. That works. Yay! And then people vote on if it's good or not. And then from light, you might say switch. So you have light switch. Yay, it's another one. Excellent. Thumbs up all round. And then switch, you might put blade and so on and so forth. So you have to give an association and try to keep it going. But then the problem that happens every game is that someone will have light and the next person will write ning. Lightning. Yay. And then you start with the word ning. And then you're just like, well, now we're stuck.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense now. And that happens, as much as you try to avoid it, there'll always be turns where you're like, I have no idea what to put here.
Yeah.
So, Word Spud, I've played it once, I've played it twice. That's probably all I'm going to play it. There will not be a third time.
Games like that too really depend on the intellectual level of your friends. So if you're playing with kids, it's a bit rougher. Like not to put kids down. Sometimes some kids can come up with some really clever stuff in these games, but sometimes on things like Fibbage and Word Spud, they don't keep up as much. Or there's more obvious spelling errors and things like that, which kind of ruin the integrity of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
So for those kind of reasons, they kind of have a bit of lackluster.
Yes. That's a shame.
Mm.
But, hey, that was from Jackbox Party Pack 1. So they were still, they weren't peaking yet. Sadly, our next bad game is from Jackbox Party Pack 5. So
Yes.
there goes that excuse. A game that I did not enjoy at all when I played it, to the point where I couldn't wait until the tutorial was over so we could save and quit.
I know, we didn't even actually play the full game. That's how bad it was.
And that game is Zeepeldome, which is a real-time, well, that's your first warning flag when it comes to phone inputs, a real-time physics-based, oh, there's another one, combat simulator. I don't even know how you explain it.
You're in an arena and you've got you and your mates taking down these little AI alien things, I guess, and you've got to Angry Birds your way to attack them. And I found the controls, because you had lag, it just wasn't intuitive. I found it incredibly frustrating.
It wasn't responsive. There was input lag, like I said, so you try to line up a perfect shot, and then by the time it actually fires...
They've moved out of the way, things like that. So it was also a game that just took way too long to do what they wanted you to do, and that was the tutorial. We're like, what? So to the point where you don't even want to play the main game. Like, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Not a terrible idea, just one that was really flawed in the way that it came together. So hopefully it'll be something that they work on and improve in the future for a future party pack.
Yeah. Well, we'll just see if the technology can hold up, because don't forget, these inputs are going via the internet to your console. It's not like a direct connection like a controller would be, where you have very minimal input lag. And sometimes when we do play these Jackbox party packs, people lose their connection or their browser freezes. And if you're playing something real time, that's a big issue from the first second.
Absolutely. And when you've got like a bunch of friends playing together and you're all using the same Wi-Fi, then it puts a strain on the feed and it slows everything down, and it makes for a bad experience for everyone, unfortunately. And that's been an issue for us when we've had like 8 people playing a game at once. As fun as it is to have lots of people, it can also ruin the connectivity and the speed with which things happen.
Which isn't as much a problem if you have 2.5 minutes to input your answers or feedback. But like we said, real time, it just doesn't work well.
For sure.
They're the only 2 games that I put a definitive thumbs down to. The other ones in the bronze tier are still enjoyable to a degree, or they have a great concept, but it's just not quite executed well enough, in my opinion. These are just our opinions, and you may have a differing list if you have played the Jackbox Party Pack. I actually talked to quite a few train drivers at work in this past week or two that have played Jackbox, and the Jackbox Party Packs are a frequent thing for their group get-togethers.
There you go.
So there's some Jackbox lovers out there. Next up on our bronze tier, from the Jackbox Party Pack 5, it's Guesspionage. The statistic guessing game, where you'll be given a fact, like how many people out of a survey said that they would text while driving, for example. And you have to try and guess how many you think it would be. How many would you think it is?
I don't know.
What percentage?
30.
Okay, well, you would say 30. The problem is, it's used from a very specific survey. And in particular, if you're playing from a different country from where they have made the game, which we have, because we live in Australia. Not sure if you could pick from the accent. So the problem is, it sort of feels a bit like The Price is Right sort of thing, where you got to try and guess exactly the right number. And if you're spot on, you get super points. If you're just a little bit off, you still get big points. But sometimes you think, yeah, this will be about here, and then it's like 90%. You're like, oh, that's not our culture. That's not what we would think. And with any spot survey, a lot of it is just, it can almost feel random at times. It doesn't feel like there's any rhyme or reason.
It can be skewed. I think that game needs to almost be faster in pace, which is tricky because people need to take time to think and mull over the question. But I think it would serve it a little better if it was a bit faster, so that you didn't have time to second guess yourself and you go on gut instinct and like give them 5 seconds on the clock, pick a thing and go, because otherwise it drags. Especially when you've got a lot of people playing, you're waiting for everyone to get their answers in. It's just one of those games that you're like, okay, now that we're done, can we go back and play something else? Yeah.
Well, our next victim, falling into the
the bronze,
the dreaded bronze tier. It's not that bad. It's still decent, but not as creative or as quirky or as fun as the other games, comes from the Jackbox Party Pack 1. Ooh, that's their second entry in this bronze tier. Lie Swatter, where you simply are given a fact and you choose if it's true or false.
Simple, and you can understand why it's in the early packs.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping it minimal and basic makes it easier for the developers to create it, but it's not all that engaging.
Ooh, simple and not all that engaging. That's probably why it started off as a single-player mobile game.
Ah, there you go.
Our rivalry continues. So, yeah, it's a simple thing. You get a fact on the screen. You choose whether it's true or not. You get points if you're correct. And that's pretty much it. So it's not as exciting or as fun as some of the ones that are coming up in this list.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other one that I put into the bronze category from the Jackbox Party Pack 4, bracketeering.
Yes.
Which is good in principle because everyone picks a favourite drink if the prompt is a drink, or their favourite movie, or so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't know what the actual category for head-to-head contest against the other players will be until the rounds begin. And sometimes you'll pick something that is spot on the first round, but completely misses the whole point of the discussion on the second one, because it's almost ineligible, and that sort of chaos doesn't quite fit very well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to work as well as it should. I don't know why. I think the other thing that I found frustrating about bracketeering was more that because your peers are choosing what they find funniest, is that if you're grouped with a bunch of people that have a different wavelength as you as far as what is a comical answer, that can kind of ruin the flow. And I'll be like, I came up with some really clever, answers, and they are so lost on people.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating too, but that's not necessarily the game's fault. So that was just one of the things I remember from playing that game that I found to be a little frustrating.
Mm-hmm. It also has up to 16 players, which is awesome, except if you get eliminated out of the first round, you've got no chance of winning for the next, 12 minutes until the game's over, which sort of does put a bit of a dampener on it.
At least they do have that feature where you can play in the audience, so that there's interactivity. If you don't want to play but you still kind of want to chuckle along with your friends, you can be a part of the audience and contribute to the outcomes of these things without putting yourself in the hot seat at the same time, which I find good. Like when you've got family over for big holidays and things like that, or mates over for a fun night. I love that people don't have to feel excluded, and they've done that pretty much from the get-go. So that's always a feature, regardless of game, that I've liked about Jackbox in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ability to have an audience as well. If you're late to the party and show up, you can still interact, can still affect the winner.
You're not left out.
Fantastic. Well, they're the only ones who got the bronze awards. Like we said, still some degree of enjoyment. It's just they don't quite perfect what they're going for, which is a bit sad. But in the gaming industry, we've seen that time and time again. Hello, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, would you like to roll us into the silver tier, please?
From the Jackbox Party Pack number 2, Bombcore.
Ooh, Bombcore, which does feel a lot like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, which is another great party game if you have not tried that with friends.
So stressful.
Yes.
It's fun, but oh my goodness, we find most friends don't actually want to play it with us because they can't handle the tension that it triggers.
It is one of those games that starts off so fun. So very fun. You have a bomb on a laptop screen or in a VR headset or on the Nintendo Switch even. A separate screen that no one else can see. You have to relay what you see on the bomb to the other people, and then they will give you information back and tell you how to disarm it. Now, one of the aspects of that is conflicting information. It'll say, always cut the red wire if the serial number ends in a 7. And then someone else will have information that says, do not cut the red wire, cut the blue wire if it starts with a 6. So, of course, everyone starts talking over each other, and that is the core of Bombcore. It's that cross-fired information that everyone gets on their phone.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, okay, it says cut the second wire from the top. And then you'll have information that says do not cut any striped wires. and you'll yell out, "Is the second wire striped?" And they go, "Yes." And you're like, "Oh, don't cut the second wire, whatever you do." And the other person says, "It says to cut the second wire." "No, don't cut it. It says it's striped."
Kaboom.
Yeah. It's a cooperative game that ends up in arguments more times than an overcooked session, but it's great fun.
Yep. It's one of those games that I think if you've got good synergy with your friends, you can do it really successfully. It's a good team building exercise as well. But that said, if you're looking for something that's more fun and less tension, that this probably isn't the party game for you.
Yeah, another thing that handicaps it is a maximum of 4 players. So that does bring the party down from most of these games will be 6 to 8 players. You cut that down to 4, you got a lot of spectators.
Yeah.
And in that sort of game where they don't get the information, there's not much they can do.
Yeah, it's not as exciting to watch, with the exception of seeing your friends sweat. Next on our list in silver tier, from Jackbox Party Pack number 1. And making a return in Party Pack number 5, You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, some of these we've sort of, instead of having the direct sequels or expanded versions of the same game that reoccur in later party packs, we've grouped together anything that is like an expansion or a direct sequel. So in this case, You Don't Know Jack was in the first party pack in 2015. You Don't Know Jack full stream, which sounds like it's something urine related, but I believe they're going for a
YouTube kind of rip-off, I think, is what it's based off.
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. You Don't Know Jack is a completely irreverent trivia game.
Yes.
That's how they advertise themselves, and it is true.
A lot of fun, and probably would be higher up on our list if it had a family filter. This is the kind of thing that, like, even certain friends we won't play this game with just because we don't know what kind of questions or categories are coming up. It was kind of awkward when Brendan's mum was playing around with us and we realised that there wasn't a family filter, but we'd already started. And one of the questions came out that was just a bit
Well,
racy.
let's just say you had to choose between whether something was a wrestling maneuver, which, boy, I know a lot about,
Yes.
or a more adult version of wrestling. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
And, yeah, it was very awkward.
There was blushing. There was a bit of, oh, okay, did not expect this to come up. And with the right friends and people that you're truly comfortable around, that can be a lot of fun. With kids and other family members or people that maybe don't like that kind of humour, it gets eliminated from the running as an option.
Yeah, which does bring it down in our lists. It's very funny, it's very silly, and half the time you don't even understand what they're trying to ask in the question, because this is not
so
just
good.
a normal trivia game where
Yeah.
they say, "What is the capital of
Australia.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's not Melbourne. It used to be. Just a bit of trivia for
At
you.
one point. A little bit of trivia.
And it's not Sydney either.
But they do ask questions in convoluted ways where the timer
Yes.
has already started ticking down and you're looking at the answers available and you are saying, what are they even going at here? I don't understand. But I love it, and I love the complexity that adds,
Yes.
and the fact that you can then use items called screws to literally put the screws to someone to put more pressure on them. Fantastic stuff. Good fun. But yes, a very specific audience. You need to be able to be relaxed enough to enjoy a bit of rudeness, would put it that way.
Yes. So if it were a bit more family friendly, then it would definitely be gold tier. But unfortunately, we had to bump it down. Otherwise, it is still a whole lot of fun to play. Even if you have no idea what the questions are asking you, it is just very cleverly put together and a lot of fun to play.
And the host is actually quite funny.
Cookie
Masterson.
And he makes an appearance in some other games as well.
All right, let's move on from that silliness and have something a little more mature. Let's make it a bit more above board with a game from the Jackbox Party Pack 4 called Civic Doodle. What are you chuckling about?
Oh, it's so immature. It brings back memory of a teddy bear that my sister got when we were in tweens that you could draw on.
With a whiteboard marker?
Something like that. Or people would, I don't know.
What was it called? A doodle bear?
I think so. And anyway,
Yeah,
It was a popular toy at the time.
Look, the game's called Civic Doodle as in reference to drawing, like people
Yes.
say doodling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not what I thought doodling was, and when I got told off for doodling, it just sounds weird. I'm going to stop saying doodle.
It's one of those words I kind of wish it wasn't a double entendre because the other practical use of drawing that's not what it is. Anyway, so Civic Doodle, you are enlisted to draw different things. So it reminds me of a kids' TV show called Mr. Squiggle. And it would have some preset things where you would draw some stuff and then it would get given to somebody else and they have to finish the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that element of not knowing what the heck's going to happen to your picture.
Yeah, it'll start off saying, hey, we need a new picture drawn of our town's mayor because we've lost all the records.
Yep.
So let's start off with the shape of the head. And then everyone draws a different shape of the head and then you choose which one to use as your base for the next round.
Mm-hmm.
And if yours gets picked, you get bigger points. So then the second round they'll say, all right, now we need you to draw his eyes. So everyone having the same head shape now draws the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the funniest eyes, or whichever one you think is the most appealing, you will vote for. And then whichever one wins becomes the new base. And just that progression of adding layers to the different, whatever you're trying to draw, whether it be a building or a signpost or, like I said, a face.
Mm-hmm.
It's good fun. There's lots of laughs because some of the things, if it says lips, someone might do a little crooked smile. Someone might do gigantic fat lips. Someone might just do a giant teethy grin. You never know what's going to happen until it shows up on the screen of what everyone has input.
Yes.
And it's quite fun.
And it's one of those games you don't need to be a good drawer. Sometimes the worst drawings are what make it so funny. And I love that they reward creativity and it's a fun free-for-all kind of game.
And of course, you can vote with emojis, which include poop. So anytime you can vote with poop, that's a winner.
Yes, and that was a common thing. I think the only issue is that the more people you have, the more it starts to lag with any drawing games. It takes a lot longer for them to load. That said, Civic Doodle does do a better job of keeping up with the demand than some of the other ones that are in these packs.
Mm-hmm. Well, also in the silver tier and also from Jackbox Party Pack 4, a game that got a little weird when we played it. It's Monster Seeking Monster.
So strange.
Pseudo-dating game? I don't
Yes.
even know how to really explain this.
I
You're all
guess-
different types of monsters.
Yes.
You're looking for love.
Yep.
So you're going to put ads out. You're going to
On
reach out.
Tinder.
You're going to reach out to other players and you're going to want a match. And if you get a
Yes.
match, you get points.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Problem is, you're pitching to people, they're pitching to other people. You have to actually pair up to get points.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can be everyone's pitching to everyone else and no one got picked. And sometimes one lucky paramour gets all the attention
Mm-hmm.
and you get none.
But there's also a catch in that you're monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you manage to pair up with someone that has a weakness to your monster type, there's all these added things and you don't want people to know what type of monster you are because that could work to your detriment.
Yes, and those sort of
So-
points don't get revealed until the end of the game.
Yes.
So you might, for example, be a vampire, and anyone that you link up with gets infected with the vampire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you get an extra point for everyone that becomes a vampire by the end of the game. So you might have other players where if you link up with the same person repeatedly, then you get more points. So you've
Mm-hmm.
all got different mini objectives. You're trying to not let anyone know what your game plan is. And because the group that we played with are all family,
Mm-hmm.
it got a little weird on top of that because I'm trying to hook up with my brother-in-law. Things are getting very strange.
Yes. And you start to realize, like, people start recognizing the nicknames of who is who. I think it works better if you kind of, for those particular mini games, if you give yourself a nickname that's not recognizable.
Something anonymous.
Yes, makes
Ooh.
it a little less awkward.
And a little more exciting.
It was just one of those games that I like. It was fun, but again, wouldn't play with key people.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these games are enjoyable to play with groups that are not, like we said, in our core gaming group.
Mm.
So having the ability to share the love on a larger scale is sometimes more preferable, including when you're a monster seeking a monster. What's next, my dear?
Another one for the silver tier is one that I really enjoy because I love to draw, and it's called Drawful.
The original Jackbox drawing game
Yep.
from the Jackbox Party Pack 1, and it also has a standalone sequel, which we will pair in this entry.
Mm-hmm.
It's available on like the PlayStation Store and everything else. Drawful 2, it's its own little separate little nugget of fun.
Yes. So if you don't want to get a whole pack and you just want one standalone game, you have that option.
So basically, you'll be charged with attempting to draw something in particular. You are given a prompt to draw. You try to draw whatever it is as accurately as you can, because if people get the right answer, you get the points. There's one problem. Everyone else tries to give another title to your picture to draw the votes to them. Because if you've drawn something that is supposed to be Santa Claus, but just looks like a fat man wearing a Santa hat, then people might write a fake Santa as what they think people will vote for. And they think, yeah, that doesn't quite look like Santa Claus. It does look like a fake Santa. I'll choose the fake Santa. So you're trying to outwit your opponents at their own drawing. Fun stuff. Subverting their own expectations for their wonderful works of art and stealing the thunder of the victory of the art.
Absolutely. This is another one where spelling can come into play. Knowing how those prompts are worded as well is really key to being able to trick your friends into voting for your title instead of what the actual answer is. Because if you word it well, then you can be very convincing. Whereas if you make spelling mistakes, if you write it in a grammatical way that the game doesn't structure it, that gives you away and then you won't get the points that you want.
Yeah, it does feel quite like an achievement when someone has drawn a bowl of green soup, because that's what they were told to draw, pea soup. And then you go radioactive waste. And everyone sees it and goes, oh, that's clearly radioactive waste. You feel so good for just accurately giving that picture a new interpretation. It's so much fun.
Absolutely.
Limited only by your imagination and, like you said, your spelling.
The only thing that really, I think for me, can ruin this game is obviously the wait time waiting for people to finish their drawings, because some people will be done in a flash, other people may like to really take their time or be struggling with the prompt that they're given. So depending on what it is can depend on whether you're sitting there for a full minute just staring at everybody on their phones, you know. But otherwise, I have a lot of fun with Drawful. I think it really depends on the group of friends. Some people don't particularly like the drawing games. It's like if you don't like Pictionary, then you probably won't enjoy these ones as much.
And it can be very difficult on a technological level to draw on a smartphone, particularly when you can't erase. So if you make a mistake and you try to fix it and it gets worse, then you're just like, well, I've just stuffed this up, haven't I?
I believe in the sequel they do give you the option to erase to a limited degree.
Good stuff.
One from the most recent party pack of Jackbox, number 5, is Split the Room, introducing the scary door, which is a Futurama reference, which is referencing
The Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Which is what this game has as its theme.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these games have different themes, like an artistic or audio sort of style to it. That is very Twilight Zone or Scary Door, depending on your preferred enjoyment of entertainment.
And hosting Split the Room is a hairball spitting cat that keeps everything moving and has that kind of smooth but slightly creepy voice.
The reveal trailer for the Jackbox Party Pack 5, this game did not look like it was going to be as fun as it ended up being. Some of them look fun and then they're not as much fun.
Yeah.
And some of them are like, oh, that's kind of boring, but is really quite cerebral and entertaining. With Split the Room, you are trying to finish off a hypothetical would you rather, basically. You're trying to set up a question in a way where you will split the room as much as possible. You want 50% of the room of your participating players to say yes and 50% to say no. One of them might be you get as much money as you need every day as long as you do what? And my answer is eat my smelly socks. Would you do that every day? Eat a smelly sock. Eat it. Ingest it?
Congested.
once a
My
day
nose.
for as much money as you could possibly imagine. All you got to do is eat one sock a day.
How big would the sock be?
I can be a booty.
Oh, there you go.
But it's smelly.
Booties, smelly booties. I think I'd find a way to make it tolerable. With all that money, I could find a way to make that not as bad.
Well, you sold out, but maybe others would not be so willing. And that is the perfect definition of splitting the room, as gross as it is. And yes, gross things are the way to success in that game.
Absolutely.
Something not too gross, but still gross enough.
The problem is you don't get to choose both prompts. You only get to choose one. So the system will come up with one option. So you have to find something that balances out quite evenly. Become Thanos and find a way to split it 50-50.
Find a perfect balance.
Yes. Not always easy, though, because if they give you a dud prompt, then it makes it not as enjoyable. So that's why that's not quite a gold tier, but it still gets a lot of giggles.
Well, next up is a game that, who knows, may have made it to the gold tier if it didn't have such a serious history of network errors, and not even at the start of the game, but once we've invested a solid 8 minutes into preparing the game. And that is from Jackbox Party Pack 3 TKO. T being spelled T-E-E because
For
it's
a
like
t-shirt.
a t-shirt.
So the whole game is you designing t-shirt designs. Going on to, Redbubble or Threadless and coming up with these killer designs that go head-to-head with another T-shirt, and the winning one wins, and it goes like tournament style, head-to-head. But you spend so long on your first design before it then saves all those designs and sends them off to then randomize and see who's going head-to-head.
Yeah, you have like 60 to 90 seconds, I think, to just come up with as many taglines and slogans as you can, whether it
And
be...
you come up with several T-shirts as well. It's not just one.
Yeah, so you might write in, just do it, I'm here, happy days, just whatever comes to mind. You just want to make as many as you can, and then you have to draw 3 different T-shirt designs. They all get stuck into a hat and scrambled, and then you'll have a field of taglines and a few pictures to choose from to make a T-shirt out of.
Yes.
And that is fun.
So fun.
But the first, 5 times we tried to play this game, every time with a group above 3 people, which is needed to get the most out of this sort of a game, it crashed after inputting all of that. All the taglines, all the data, all the pictures.
It freaked out. It couldn't manage that much information, I guess, at the very least on our servers on networks. I don't know if it was our internet or if it was...
It was not our internet.
The Jackbox
It was
servers.
a server issue, which therefore is a problem.
With the game and not us.
Now, we have since then played rounds of it successfully, some great combinations of someone, might be shooting a gun, and it's you choose the tagline saying, just do it. Things like that. Things that nobody could imagine would have combined to be that funny. And not that shooting a gun is funny, but in this situation, it was funny because it was a stick figure with a little plastic gun that was made of drawings.
As they all are.
Can you tell how fast I backpedaled there?
Hey, it could be a paintball gun.
Could be.
Or if you're like us at the end of a school year and you do those blow-off days and you fill it with fish oil. Those are awesome.
That's disgusting.
But very potent.
Potent is right. So,
Anyways.
Yeah. TKO is good fun, provided the servers stay on tact. They have been pretty on tact. Intact, whatever. On, in. It's only a letters difference. Changed a fair bit. But as long as the servers stay intact, then you are in for a great time with TKO.
One of our favourites, but unfortunately got bumped down because of those lag and server issues that we talked about before. Another one in the silver tier from Jackbox Party Pack number 2, Bidiots, which is another drawing one. It seems that a lot of these drawing ones are in here. And I enjoy this. The only thing that I have an issue with is because it just takes forever.
This is a game that is great fun. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a good drawer or a bad drawer in this game because the worse the drawings are, the harder the game is, but the more frustration and laughter and silliness comes from it. Bidiots, you are given prompts that you are supposed to draw. Everyone draws what they're told to draw. You have a couple of those, and then you get little hints on what is worth a lot because you are at an art auction and you want to try to get the most valuable pieces of art that have been drawn, in 60 seconds on a touch phone, which obviously is not going to be that detailed. There is one catch, however. Some of the prompts seem awfully close to each other, and you don't know whether that picture that's just shown up is the incredibly valuable sumo wrestler or the worth almost nothing fat baby. And they look very similar. If you have ever tried to quickly draw a sumo and a fat baby, they'll look very close to each other. Some artworks are worth a lot, some are worth less. You don't know until you buy it and to see what you actually ended up with. And sometimes you'll come out with mega profits, and sometimes you'll blow $4,000 on something that's worth $300.
And the fun thing is, because it's an auction, if your artwork comes up, you can try to skew the results by bidding up your own work and start a bidding war. And then once it hits the threshold that you wanted, you can just chill and lay back. But if people go onto you, then you can sometimes accidentally sabotage yourself and bid on your own work. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a bit of strategy as well. It's not just the art stuff, but it's the strategy. And I think that's where the game can drag a little bit, is at the auction. Sometimes it's fun, but after people have spent their first initial big spend, they tend to back off huge. That's been the pattern with us anyway, with our friends.
It's very front loaded, this game. People bid a lot early.
And then back off, and then it's not as exciting, and it loses steam quickly.
Yeah.
And because there's several rounds, it's not just one big round building up to one auction, then that's where it starts to lose its steam a little bit. I think if it was a lot of paintings with one auction and that's the end of it, that it would be a lot more fun.
Yeah, but with 6 players, everyone draws 2 each. Even one round takes 12 auctions.
Yes.
That's a lot.
And then you've got another round, and the game isn't over. So you can see where it can feel like it drags, and that's, I think, what lets it down.
Having said that, it is a lot of fun. If you have people who are good at drawing, it doesn't matter if they're bad at drawing, because the people who are good try to make their artwork so specific that it still ends up looking like the other things it could be. You don't know if that picture that's just showed up is going to the beach, or if it's getting sunburnt, or if it's getting a tan, because they all look very similar to you when you're after a very specific piece of art.
Absolutely. And sometimes when they're just so bad, where someone's literally drawn a line and a dot, and you're like, well now, okay, this could be any of the categories. And you don't know if people are being deliberately facetious or if they're just that bad at drawing that they panicked. So it is a lot of fun in that sense to try to figure out what people have drawn and where it fits. There's only a couple left in the silver tier.
3 games that we have all linked together because they're all basically the same game.
Just the sequels.
And that is Fibbage XL, Fibbage 2, and Fibbage 3. And that is not a algebra equation. It's basically Fibbage, Fibbage 2, and Fibbage 3. Fibbage, if you've ever played the board game of Boulder Dash, it's very similar. You'll be given a factoid that requires a fill in the blank. There'll be a correct answer, but there'll also be the answers that everyone else has put in. And the difference between this game and our favourites that come up later is that you're not actually trying to be the funniest person in the room in this game.
Just the smartest.
You are trying to put in believable answers that will fool people into thinking that it's true, which means if you put a spelling mistake in, your answer ain't getting picked.
No. The fun thing about Fibbage is that there are some really out there questions. So you do have an opportunity to get creative. And the more familiar you become with how the system works, the easier you can kind of play it, I guess. Occasionally, we actually know the real answers to stuff, which means then you can come up with something that's very close and very believable to get and trick enough of your friends into voting for your answer. And more often than not, when Brendo and I play this game, we end up tricking each other.
There is no other pairing that keeps choosing each other's answers as much as you and I do.
Yes. We think on a very similar wavelength, which is good and bad when it comes to these sorts of games. It's a challenging game because you have to think on another plane level, again, trying to think of how the game will word things to make it more believable. You can't necessarily write how you would write stuff. Otherwise, that gives you away.
Yep.
You know, that's where we don't really play Fibbage with a lot of our younger friends because they struggle, with their spelling, but also just with the structure of the sentences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't write things necessarily grammatically correct, and that immediately gives them away.
Or
And we feel like that's so unfair to them.
all of their answers is Donald Trump.
Which occasionally comes into play with this thing, but, very rarely, and it just becomes frustrating.
Yeah, but you'll be given a prompt saying something like, in the state of Iowa, every May they have a festival that celebrates blank. And there'll be the correct answer, and then what would you choose?
Corn.
It's probably a safe bet, really. That might actually be the correct answer.
I'm trying to remember. There's state fairs later in the year, isn't it? Our state fair is a great state fair. Don't miss it. Don't even be late. Oh my goodness. I love Iowa. I know that sounds really weird to say.
I should not have mentioned Iowa. She's going to be on about this for a while. Maybe we should take a break right now and you get it out of your system.
When we travel to the States, that's one of the few places that, we've been to that's just so off the norm. People are always like, you went to Iowa? I'm like, yeah, and it was awesome. I love it so much. We love you, Jimbo.
We actually met someone called Jimbo.
He was the nicest guy, seriously. He drove us around for free and, being our free taxi, basically. Before there was Uber, there was Jimbo.
Put a trademark on that immediately.
We will be back with the gold tier Jackbox games right after this.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side. And you could be featured in the next podcast.
Well, this is it. We're up to the gold tier, the top shelf of Jackbox Party Pack mini games. These are games that we feel there is absolutely no flaw in. Or if there is, they're very small.
They're ones we can overlook enough because they're just so much fun to play.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
No, I asked you. Are you ready?
Why, yes, I am.
Okay, good.
Well, our first nominee for the gold tier is from the recently released and recently played, mind you, Jackbox Party Pack 5. It's patently stupid. And yes, that is the theme song to it, and it's quite catchy, and I keep saying patently stupid in my everyday life.
This one is definitely one of your more recent favourites, and I think you probably get a kick out of it maybe more than I do. I still enjoy playing it, but boy oh boy do you love turning into some big...
The shopping network.
You look like you belong in a sales seminar up the front wearing a suit and a sleazy comb over.
And a little earpiece with the microphone. Perfect. Patently stupid, you start off with filling in more prompts of everyday problems that people face. Whether it be, I need to immediately remove my...
toenails.
Perfect. And then it becomes a drawing game, which you love, the drawing games.
Yes, I do.
And you have to draw the solution to that. Give your invention a name and a tagline. And then, my favourite part of this game, and why it makes the gold tier, is only if you use the option to present your invention yourself and not let the AI do it, because it lacks the oomph of a personal presentation. So we like to stand up, direct our attention to the TV. You have controls on your phone to reveal the picture, the title, and the tagline in the order you want, the timing you want. And you can then reveal your invention and do a good old-fashioned sales pitch to the masses.
Give him the hard sell.
And we have had some hilarious situations recently, whether it be I need to dry out the saliva in my mouth or something about dilation.
I need a new planet?
Yes, how did we desperately need a new planet, and also...
I need to go to court, but I can't because of my dilated cervix.
Which had about 4 of the same...
plugs.
Situation. All right, enough of that.
Yep, some of the solutions tend to... When you've got a really obvious problem, it's harder to come up with the creative things, but other times... you see some just really random ideas, and it makes for very funny stuff.
Yeah, your first round, it all crossfires. You write a prompt, it'll go to someone else. They have to draw it and present it. Easy peasy.
Yep.
Second round, everyone has the same problem.
Yeah.
And therefore you have multiple solutions to the same problem, and the best sales pitch will usually win that.
And creative ideas. And sometimes it comes down to the name and taglines, which just have you rolling over with laughter if you've got friends that are witty.
The game is patently stupid. It is patently stupid, and I love it to pieces. And we played it on New Year's Eve.
We did.
So it's fresh in our mind, but I think with the right crew, it definitely deserves top tier.
Also in our gold tier of games from Jackbox, from Party Pack number 3, Trivia Murder Party. I just love it because you've got the guy, it's like the voiceover sounds like from Saw. And he's kidnapped you all and he's making you play a game.
Do you want to play a game of Trivia Murder Party?
Yes, and you've got like these little voodoo dolls that symbolize you that, you know, as you play the game, if you get it wrong, you could suddenly die or have to play another game very quickly against other people, and whoever gets things wrong will die and the others might still survive and continue on through to the end. But if you die, you become a ghost and you still compete.
And you can still win the game, more importantly.
Exactly.
Trivia games are what Jackbox made their bread and butter with the You Don't Know Jack.
Yep.
But the Trivia Murder Party starts off each round, simple trivia, get them wrong, you're fighting for your life.
Yes.
And I love that trope in anime or video games where people are basically going through challenges to try and survive. I'm grim, I'm creepy, but I get so much enjoyment from seeing people fight for their lives.
It's interesting, and it's always amusing to play it for the first time with people that haven't played it before and seeing their reaction to, there's one penalty thing if you get an answer wrong and they say, pick a finger. And you're like, what? And so you choose a finger and that finger gets cut off. But it just means that either answer 1, 2, 3, or 4, you can't choose anymore for your answers when a question comes up because it's always multiple choice. And that can hinder you greatly if you chose the wrong one.
And you know what the answer is, but you cannot select it because you chopped off that finger.
Yes. It's not too graphic. It's like it has like cartoonish blood in certain bits. But most of the scare stuff is just
the theming.
The theming, exactly. And it's very comical in the way that it does it. But yeah, it's funny to see friends like kind of almost get a bit nervous thinking that this is going to be really gory or graphic. But if I can handle it, anyone can handle it.
When you lose a question, you have to fight for your life. It may just be you have to enter in math equations as quickly as possible, which always puts people under the pump. And whoever comes in last place dies. It may be my favourite, the old prisoner's dilemma. If both of you agree on something, then you both survive. If one of you takes advantage of the other, they survive, you lose. Good fun. I love that sort of psychological
warfare
craziness.
There's the poison chalices where, you know, a couple of people might have gotten a thing wrong, and so those who got it right get to choose which goblets the poison goes into, and you have to choose which one your character, your little doll, drinks out of. And you might be safe, you might not be. And oh my goodness, things like that just get you so nervous.
Yep. And after a series of rounds, or whoever is the last person standing, then you get to the final round where you have to choose true or false on a series of questions. And the person who currently has the only alive status only has 2 things to choose from, whether they're true or false, whereas everyone else gets 3, which means they can move further than the person who's alive.
Yeah, more opportunity for points.
If they overtake the person who is alive, they switch and possess their body, which puts them closer to the exit, and then they are slowed down in process. So you're making a dash for the exit. The leadership changes hands usually about 3 or 4 times each round in that final dash for safety.
Yep.
I love it so much.
It's so frantic, and never have the stakes in a trivia game actually felt so, you know, important. So life and death, you know? And it gets really competitive, more than any other trivia game that we've ever played.
Now, the ooh, I almost bumped this down to silver because there's one little flaw with this game. If the game ends in less than 5 rounds, which is quite doable because A,
We've
the
done it.
trivia questions are hard and
Yes.
the survival games are also hard, and sometimes you can be wiped out in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, the game just ends because
Yeah.
everyone's dead and
And
congratulations.
the voiceover mocks you quite mercilessly.
So it's good fun. It's like I like the theming as well. The poor little voodoo dolls getting pins stuck in them or sliced in half or stuffing popping out of them. It's cutesy but still a little grim, and
Yes.
I adore just everything about.
It treads that line, I think, just right. You know, because we've played that with kids and they were a bit nervous about the theming of it too. But it was nothing. Once they realised that it was a bit more comedic, I think they calmed down a little bit.
Kids
and-
being early teens.
Yes, not like obviously old enough
here,
to
6-year-old.
understand the questions.
Play trivia murder party with me.
Yes. So again, I think though with trivia, this is another one that you can't put a family filter on. But we haven't had that many suggestive things come up in it anywhere near as much as You Don't Know Jack.
Well, when you're fighting for your life, it sort of ruins the appeal of anything naughty anyway. So there you go. What's next?
One that our teen friends love and beg to play every time they come over to play Jackbox. On Party Pack number 3, Fakin' It. Yes. It's a simple game. It's very similar to ones that you might have had to play in school in drama or at like a youth or a club like a scouts group, I guess, where they try to break the ice a little bit. And they have one person go out of the room and the others have to, you're finding the leader, come back in and guess who's leading the pack. Those sorts of games, but turn into a party game here on Jackbox. One person is the faker and won't know what the prompts are on their phone. They just have to blend in.
Try to chameleon themselves and not draw attention.
Yes. Not easy at all. Everyone else is given a prompt like raise your hand if you showered today.
Yep.
And if you did, you raise your hand. If you didn't, you keep it down.
So
And the faker has to try to guess whether they should put their hand up or down.
and it's easier if the countdown goes 3, 2, 1, go, and nobody raises their hand. In which case, you just sit there and go, "Yep, all right, who is it? Who is it?"
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to blend in. When it's more split, and you see half the
And
people
people
with hands up,
hesitating.
then you start going, "Oh, I don't know what to do." It becomes a bit trickier.
Mm-hmm.
You got absolutely thrown under the bus one time because you were the faker.
Yes.
The prompt was,
Raise your right hand. And I raised my left.
that's all it had to do. Raise your right hand. And it said 3, 2, 1, go. Everyone raised their hand. Jem put her hand up too. Everyone looked at Jem and said, "It's you," and you had no idea why.
And I
what
had
went
no
wrong.
defense because normally, like, if it's iffy enough, you can argue and lie your way out of it. And we've managed to do that successfully as well. Don't know if I should be proud about that or not. But you kind of start backpedaling and going, no, that's how I would totally do that. Or I don't like that show. What are you talking about? You don't know me. And you kind of try to throw the heat on somebody else. And if you can split the room, because it has to be a unanimous vote for the faker to reveal them. If you can seed enough doubt in somebody, it can keep the game going and hopefully you can get away with it.
Yeah. On one hand, there's no point in splitting the vote because you can only confirm your suspicions by all voting for the same person. But you get points if you vote for the faker. So if everyone's going for person X and you know it's person Y and they're all getting frustrated at you because you're voting for person Y, guess who's going to win the game? You are, because you're picking the right person.
Because there's multiple rounds, you can still accrue points for guessing correctly, even if you don't reveal the faker in the end. So you've got to play strategically and in a way that can help people, but at the same time, sometimes you've got to go with your gut and stick with who you know or at least have a hunch to believe that is the faker.
Yep.
Now, if you are the faker, oh my goodness, this game is like makes you a nervous wreck.
It's one of those things where if you aren't the faker, you're like, "Oh, I want to be the faker. This isn't fair." And then as soon as you are and your phone says you are the faker, try to blend in, your heart rate spikes.
Yes. There is different rounds. There's ones where you're pointing at people where you think like, you know, who is the best driver you might point at. And so everyone will point at somebody.
Which means if you're the person pointing to the 13-year-old, you're like, oh,
who's
this
the best driver? And you'd be like, yeah, I'm a smart aleck. That's why I pointed at them.
You also have prompts that require you to pull a certain face. Maybe it'll be a face that you've just soiled yourself in public. You'd usually go for something a bit more horrified. But if you're sitting there with a big grin on your face, people are going to start looking at you to thinking you're the faker.
I love that one, as the faker is the easiest one to bluff through.
Yep.
So easy. And it's harder because people are so worried about their own face that they don't necessarily look at everyone's right away. They only look at usually like whoever's like directly across from them, which is where like you've got to sit carefully in like a semicircle or like in rows across from each other so you can get a good vibe for how people are reacting and how they're behaving. Otherwise, you can be deceived really easily. The other one, so you've got pointing, raising hands, faces, and then number of fingers, which can be tricky.
It can be very difficult. If Grandma puts up 10 fingers saying she's seen Die Hard 10 times this year.
Grandma.
Slight suggestion that she was off the mark there. It could be any number of things. And that's probably one of the harder ones because it could be 0, it could be 10, it could be anything in between, and you have to try and guess what we're going for. 3!
Yes, like that's another one where showering, I think, has come into it. How many times have you showered in the past week and you see people holding up 0 and you're like, really now, if you're not the faker, I am seriously disturbed. Let's take you to the bathroom now. Put you in there.
It's good fun. It's still fun if you don't know people very well because then it's easier to sow doubt in the suspicions because then you can just make up stories and say, yeah, me and my brother watched Die Hard 10 times last week because we wanted to see if we could remember all the lines. It's not a very convincing argument, but especially because I don't have a brother. But, you know, that's the sort of thing that you can do. But if you do play this game with people who you know quite well, and we usually play this with a group of family who know each other quite well, it's a lot more fun to try to just go, I know for a fact that is not true. You are the faker. And then you're just like, well, I'm stuffed.
There are several times where the game will just completely throw you under the bus too. Which is always amusing if you're not the one who's getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah, but great time, good laughs.
Absolutely. And always one that it comes out pretty like regularly in our house anyway.
It's one of the top rotation Jackbox Party Pack games for us. Let's move on to our next choice from Jackbox Party Pack 5, another game that I fell in love with at first sight, or should I say, first listen. It's Madverse City.
Madversity.
A game where you play as gigantic robots freestyle rapping against each other for glory.
So much fun. That was an interesting one when we played that again at New Year's Eve because we had a much bigger group this time and it was really gratifying to have multiple verses and not having an AI step in because you have to have even numbers. Otherwise, is it Gary?
Gene.
Mean Gene.
Oh, rest in peace, Mean Gene.
Mean Gene. Yeah, he steps in to fill that void because you have to have even numbers going back and forth for the rounds. But it's like, if for anyone who's played Mad Libs, where you're filling in, you need the adjective, you need a noun, and everything's got to rhyme and make sense as best you can. Sometimes when they ask for a thing, though, the word that you give does not fit at all with what the sentence is that they're inserting it into, and you're like, oh, guys, if you'd given me the sentence, I could have made this so much better.
But the point of the game is that you do not actually get the sentence.
Yeah.
So it will ask you for a holiday destination, and you choose...
The Maldives.
Oh, great. And then it will fill in the first line of the rap, which will be something along the lines of, I've got my new mansion in the Maldives. And then you have to write the entire second line of the rap to make it as cool or as funny as witty as possible. So what would you write?
And it's overflowing with multiple wives.
All right, that was actually pretty good.
I thought of it. I'm like, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but But sometimes that's the funny part is by rapping or rhyming things that are kind of unexpected and a bit left field, and you can go with your typical rap of trying to tear your opponent down, which we see on so many different platforms in rap battles. But I think it's more fun sometimes to just be goofy, and sometimes you can be almost insulting yourself, but people will still vote for you, and you've got people that will cheer or boo you as it's going, depending on what they think of the rhyme scheme as it comes up, and at the end they vote for who they thought won the battle.
Yep.
And sometimes just the random ones can outdo ones that, unfortunately, that might have been better thought out. You know what I mean? So you just don't know where it's going to go, but that's half the fun.
Yeah. Two things do propel this to the top tier of my Jackbox experiences. The first is that, the fact that it is not just written on the screen, but it is text-to-speech into an actual rap. Mm-hmm. Cracks me up every time hearing your robotic Indian-sounding woman laying the fire down.
You always seem to end up getting the Aussie voice, which is really funny and refreshing, actually, that they have that as one of the options. Like, hearing all the different text-to-speech, it's very rare that an Australian one would get you. So, it makes me smile hearing a bogan voice come over and reading the rhymes.
And also, a little thing that we love to do when we play Jackbox is to pick a theme for everyone's nicknames to be while still remaining as your identity. So, for example, last time we did the Madverse City, I was Brizzle J.
Mm-hmm. And I was P. Giddy.
Which just makes those lineups that look like a wrestling combat poster all the more appealing. And by far the best bit is before your rap actually shows up, somebody says, "I'll apologise in advance." Because I think the line of the night when we played on New Year's Eve was from Mr. Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Something along the lines of, "You're nothing more than a crook. If you steal my wife, you also steal my cook." Which did require a pre-apology.
And yeah, the funny thing is most of the people voting, because I think he was battling against another guy, so most of the audience that was voting were women. And yet he still I think he won that round, because even though, because we just know he's joking, he doesn't actually believe that. So we found that really funny.
Damn!
Normally, if it was someone that believed it, then they would have gotten the downvote. But it was just so out of character for him too. I think that's why it made it so much more funny.
Great
good time.
stuff. Great.
I think that's a game, though, that can depend highly on the people that play. Because if you've got someone that's just hitting the rhyme for me button, or people that don't quite get it, then it can maybe lose some of its potency.
It does, yes. But with the right crew,
yeah,
superstardom.
So I think what Jackbox is teaching us is that you need to have really funny, witty friends. Otherwise, hanging out with them would suck.
Well, not always. And the next example is a perfect one, because it's a little game from Jackbox Party Pack 2 that probably has hit the peak level of laughter out of anything we've tried before. It's earwax.
Oh, I love earwax. Some people didn't get this when we first started it, but I think coming from a background in radio and trying to tell stories with sound effects was so my jam. I would always insist that we play earwax.
Can you wham bam pass the jam?
What a hungry gem I am. So earwax, you were given a prompt. What does it sound like when a clown goes to the doctor? And so you've got to try to come up with an audio story, basically. So you're given you can only choose 2 sound effects. One will follow straight after the other. So whatever you touch first, even if it's accidental, that's going to be the first sound effect. You don't get to listen to them. You just have to try to guess based off their descriptions, which can be a bit tricky.
So you get about 6 to 8, I think, of your options, and then you choose which one to play first, which one to play second. It's randomized. Everyone has a different field to choose from. And you have to try your best to piece together what it sounds like when a clown goes to the doctor.
Yes.
And if you're lucky enough to have maybe a heartbeat and then a sad trumpet, that would be perfect.
Or maybe you might get the kind of music. Like, you just never know what's going to be there. And, you know, when you've got people that know what they're doing as far as piecing them together, it makes some really, really funny combinations. And, you know, sometimes you'll be sitting there like replaying them, whoever's like the judge, because each person takes a turn being the judge, will have their work cut out for them. They'll be replaying them over and over again going, I don't know which one to pick, because they're so funny.
The randomness of this game does work to its advantage and its detriment to a degree, because you never know what you're going to have available to you. And if it's something about flatulence and you have a flatulent sound effect, you're in the money, because that's your way to victory in that game.
Yeah.
But it can be a little hit or miss, but it is a majority of a hit, I have to admit. That was my Madverse City rhyme, apparently.
I do love a good earwax. Not that sounds so gross.
I do love a good earwax.
Oh my word. But one of my favourites has to be on the Jackbox Party Pack 4, Survive the Internet.
Yes.
It is just so good and so the perfect game for millennials.
Well, we said these were just broken up into tiers. We didn't want to rank them individually as far as having a list of number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. But these last two, I think, potentially are definitely our top 2.
Oh, yeah.
Survive the Internet is a game where you do pretty much my favourite thing in the world, and that's take other people's words out of context.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So
It
good.
is set up in the theme of social media. Somebody will write a news or even just write a line of dialogue, and then you have to write it into a headline of a news article or a tweet that they did, and then you have the topic of what takes it completely out of its original meaning, and fantastic fun.
Yes.
You have pictures that they choose, whether you want a picture of a cute ferret or a holiday getaway. And then you choose the picture, and then someone else adds the tagline to it and the hashtag, which completely changes what its original intention was.
Yep.
My favourite, like I said, taking other people's words out of context. I didn't have to do it with you because you just said how much you love earwax.
Yep, and that would be, you know, something that you might put on a foodie website where they put reviews for food, and that could be the comment. So sometimes you might be coming up with a website or a headline that makes someone's comment about something really ridiculous or really gross or just stupid, you know, make them look like an idiot. And then people will vote on who did the best burn, who did the best fake news with their words and twist them. And it's a lot of fun. I love the hashtag one. I always love the captioning the photo and coming up with a hashtag, very Instagram-ish, because I already like to do that in real life with stuff. Like, I don't like doing normal, boring captions. I like to make things witty if I can, if I am thinking fast enough to do that. That's the thing. What cinches it, though, is like if you can come up with things witty enough in the time frame, because sometimes you just blank.
Yep.
You're like, oh my gosh, how does my brain work? How do I play? How do I say words?
The pressure is there sometimes. You do have dud rounds in any of these games.
Oh, yeah.
But usually fight back from underneath and the room's laughing again before you know it.
That's why we like to play a practice round of a game first to get the creative juices flowing and get people laughing, because I think once they relax and get into that mode, it's so much easier to then jump into some other stuff that makes you think a little harder, but then, you know, you start to rapid fire a lot easier, I guess.
Yeah. Survive the Internet works at its best when people put a little bit of detail into their responses to the prompts, but not too much to make it too specific or too bland by just saying yes or no. For example, you might be asked, what do you think of this current season you're experiencing? And you write, it just never ends. And then someone gets that, it just never ends, and it says, this is their comment, what's the video that they're watching? And the winning answer was Popping the World's Largest Pimple Part 7. The comment, it just never ends.
Ew.
That's a winner in my heart. And I think that actually came up on one of our games. So congratulations to whoever put in that prompt. Top stuff. But you know what else is top stuff? Probably my very, very, very favourite Jackbox game. And thankfully, it's in 2 different versions.
Quiplash.
Yeah, rounding out our list of the best possible Jackbox Party Pack games, the one that is always a winner. It has never failed us yet. Quiplash XL is available in the Jackbox Party Pack 2, and then Quiplash 2 is in Party Pack 3. So try and keep track of that. Party Pack 2 or 3, it's got Quiplash.
Yes.
Quiplash is a winner.
It is always a winner. And family-friendly versions as well, so it can filter out prompts that you don't want coming up, which is one of the reasons why we love it so much too.
It's a simple thing. You will be given a couple of prompts on your device. You answer them to the funniest possible way or whatever you think will get the most votes. And then your answer will be paired up with whoever else had that same prompt. Head-to-head, people choose who they're voting for. Superb, fun stuff. It'll be simple things like, what's the worst thing you could find in your soup? And you choose an answer, I choose an answer, they go head-to-head, people vote. Wonderful. This is a game where the more players you have, the better it gets because the rounds are quick moving. You're not hanging around doing 12 rounds of a minute each.
Yeah, the pacing is really good in Quiplash.
Every answer shows up, bam, bam, you put your votes in, people get points, it moves on to the next, and you can barely recover from laughing at the last answer before the next one's up, and no one's paying attention to it.
You
'cause
feel
they're still
so
laughing.
sorry, like sometimes you're laughing so hard in an answer that you don't even get time to really read the one that's popped up, and then you feel guilty for missing out and not paying attention because people work so hard on their answers most of the time. So you're like, oh no.
It's the perfect game to get those creative juices flowing. Always a winner. It really is only limited by how absurd you want to be. You take it where you want to take it, and it's, by and large, I think, without a doubt, the pinnacle of the Jackbox Party Pack experience.
Absolutely. It's always our go-to. It's the one that if we've been playing other games, testing out the waters of the different ones that are available in the different packs, inevitably someone will be like, can we go back to Quiplash? People love it. Like on every party that we've had, it's always been, let's return to Quiplash because we love it so much. It is just so much fun.
Now, if you are out there and you have never bought a Jackbox Party Pack and you're listening to this going, which one should I get? Which one is the best, most rounded experience? Which one would you choose?
I would say Party Pack 3. When you've got Faking It, TKO, Trivia Murder Party, Guespionage, and Quiplash 2. Like, that's a pretty well-rounded thing there. You've got a drawing game, you've got the Quiplash game, you've got trivia, like all of the things that they're strong in combined into one.
I would agree with that. 3, I think, is the strongest one. It was the one we've probably spent the most hours on. 5, 4, and 2 are all winners as well. You can't go wrong with them. They've all got their superb games included. 1 is a little bit of a dud, but it still has its charm and appeal. If you've exhausted everything else, why not give 1 a shot as well? But yeah, give Jackbox Party Pack 3 a try if you haven't yet at your next get-together, and let the good times roll.
So that was our list of the best Jackbox games.
Our list.
Our list.
We
Very
filled in the
personal.
gaps ourselves. You can put whatever you want in your prompts.
Exactly, just like Mad Libs. If you agree or you disagree, feel free to hit us up at thegaminglovers.com, send us a message, or on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. We love to interact with you guys. And, of course, it is time for...
Future gaming goals.
That got very deep.
It's the future.
So, I think I accidentally covered this at the beginning of the podcast episode.
Of what you intend on playing.
Yes, so I'm going to continue my Mass Effect trilogy and the Persona dancing games, and that's basically all I'm going to focus on, kind of keeping it lightweight for now until I throw down the gauntlet for 4 and Feb. What about you?
Well, I'm still sticking to my usual ones. That's the problem with this segment. It's not as exciting when you just are playing large games, but I'm taking my time with Yakuza 0 because I want to enjoy it. I don't want to just rush through this sort of game. I am enjoying all of the side missions, all of the extra goodies, all the extra battles. So why not keep doing it? Why try and rush through a game that you get more out of the more you put in? I've got more weird things to do, I'm sure.
Undoubtedly.
And depending on schedule, I may also do absolutely nothing in the forest, or I may try and do something and end up doing nothing in the forest as well. It all depends on if I actually play it, but I'll still end up with most likely the same result.
Any plans on going back to Dark Souls and doing some live streaming, or have you completely thrown that out the window?
Look, I'm trying to move on from the failures that I left in 2018. Maybe one day I'll get back to that, but that day is not today.
Fair enough. I can't believe we got over gaming goals pretty quickly for once. Well, look at us. We're so succinct in this new year.
Succinct, bland, one of the two.
Oh, no. Not bland. Just wait till February. Until next time, everybody.
I've been Brendo, and I love Jackbox.
And I'm Jem. Sayonara.
What should I put in this line here? A familiar farewell greeting from a podcast host. Chelsea.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.